Boston College has been a program that really hasn't been involved in a lot of postseason fun of late, with football being involved in some kind of lower bowls, and basketball, well, they haven't been involved in postseason play other than the NIT in about 15 years? It's been a while. Now, college sports and NCAA in general are starting to think about changes to all of the major programs, but today, men's and women's basketball and football, as they're going to change the eligibility for both of the tournaments. We'll get into all of that and more on today's Locked On BC.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black, the editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Sports Network. On today's show, we're looking at postseason play for Boston College in the NCAA. We're going to start by talking about football. Now, if you know the rules around college football, you know that there's, what is it, like 38 bowls at this point, and they bring in 60, 70 teams that are bowl eligible every year. To be bowl eligible, at this point, you need to be 6-6. Sometimes, and this has happened according to a report, there needs to be teams that are 5-7 to fill some of them. Just not enough teams to fill the bowls that they have. Now, when you're looking at the bowl situation, you're looking at some bigger bowls, and the right now what college sports is considering doing, and it looks like it's just it's coming, is that playoffs are going to expand, and those playoffs are going to eat up some of those bowls. You're going to get more teams involved in that. That's going to take up more TV slots. That's going to figure out get rid of some of those eligible teams. But according to a report by Ross Dellinger of SI.com, it looks like the eligibility requirements to get into a bowl is going to get tougher. According to him, they're going to have a group to think about changing the eligibility from 5-7 to 6-6, and from 6-6 to 7-5. So when you're looking at this, you're looking at BC potentially having a harder road to the bowl season. There's been years, and I put up, I think the Patrick Tolles year, they were 6-6, but there's been years BC and 6-6. They're always hovering around 7-5, 6-6. And if that makes it harder for BC, that's a good thing. Now, you want to reward teams that are playing better, of course. And the report does say even the bad games, the games like the Bahamas Bowl, which is played 2 weeks between two teams no one cares about, still draws about 2 million on TV. That's a big number. That's bigger than WWE Raw, which is a big number. So that shows that there's still interest. But as the shape and landscape of football changes, and they're eating up more of those slots, will those be the games that go away? And that's an interesting question. Now, I have to think, if they were, and I'm not here to, I don't want Boston College just to be happy with a 6-6 season. If BC goes 6-6, is that a reason to celebrate? No. But the players do normally have a tough year. They bust their butts, and it's a way for them to cap off their year in a big way. It isn't like a big tournament thing that we have to hang banners for. I remember it's not even 10 years ago. BC used to have the banners for the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl and the Music City Bowl. They used to have all those up. They got rid of all those. I don't think I've seen them up there recently, but I sit in a different area, so they might be there. But when it does hurt BC are those seasons. Like I look at like next year, right? There's a good chance that BC ends up as like a 6-6 team. Should they make a bowl game? I mean, it begs the question. I mean, some folks will say yes, some folks will say no. I'm of my personal belief is that I am a fan of football just in general. I don't care if it's bad football. I don't care if it's good football. I will turn it on if it's on, and I will just put it on. I mean, I have a son right now who's 4 years old, and during the weekends, and we're like, let's go watch something on TV. His first thing is football, and he loves watching it. And so whatever a game is on, I'll throw it on. Now it's not celebrating bad teams. It's just content, right? And content is never a bad thing. And how many teams are in bowl games that fire their head coach? I mean, we only have to look back to 2019 to look back at the what was it, the Birmingham Bowl that Steve Adazio got fired and Richie Gunnell was the head coach. So I think it would be for it to be tougher for BC is a bad thing. But at the end of the day, my thought about this as well, they can change this, but they're just like with 5 and 7 teams, they're gonna need 6 and 6 teams, as they said in this article. And if you need a 6 and 6 team, they're going to go by APR, and BC will be near the top every time. And so BC and they're a Power 5 team. If it's between them and G5 school, they're going to pick BC. So BC's not going to get hard here. There might be a year that does hurt them, but that's the case, right? And I think a lot of folks might also say too, when you're taking away a chunk of change from them, it might actually help BC's athletic department see that, in the board of trustees and president, that, hey, just being a mediocre 6 and 6 team is actually not financially a good move either. It's not fun to watch, and it does hurt our school because you're not getting the bowl payouts that you would be if you were a bowl team. So, it's just an interesting thought to see. There's also other changes in there as well. The one I love is NIL payments. I saw the Cheez-It Bowl had a bunch of players that they paid to like sleep in the Cheez-It lounge or whatever the hell it was. And there were other things involved. I would love to see NIL more pay, like that be part of the whole bowl package. Pay the players. Right? It was I think it was the TCU Michigan game where they were bragging about the $2 million trophy that they had for that. And it was like diamond encrusted, blah, blah, blah. Who the heck cares? The winning team should take that trophy, take a picture of, sell it so they could pay their players. That's where that money should be going. And so if NIL seeps more into bowl games, that's great too. And for a team like BC that may be behind a little bit more than other teams, that's great because if you're getting bowl money that you can the players with, then boom, you're in a better shape than other programs that don't get to a bowl game. So I think that part would be great too. Also, they're thinking about moving there's a lot of changes. I'm just telling you right now, keep an eye on this. Bowl season is going to be different. Starting very soon, and I think it's going to be something worth watching. Now, in a moment, I'm going to talk about basketball. I love basketball, don't you? And we're going to get into how that is actually going to go the other way. And I'm going to explain why it's going to get easier for a lot of teams, including Boston College, in just a moment. Now, we're going to talk about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup, we got it all at BetOnline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline.net as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get all your sports betting in. They don't have the Duke line yet, but I don't know how you're feeling about Duke, but go on Saturday where you'll get your line and you can either go over under. They've got everything on there. First half spreads, second half spreads, player predictions, all sorts of stuff. So head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. This is Locked On BC. AJ Black here. Thank you all for listening. And if you have not done so already, I have a favor for all of or become a regular listener to Locked On BC, if you're listening to this on a podcast, if you are just finding us on YouTube, what I would love for you to do is go to YouTube. Just go on your computer, click in youtube.com and look up Locked On Boston. Hit that subscribe button right now. We are getting closer and closer to 700. I would love to break that in the next week. So if you have not done so already, hit subscribe. You get daily BC videos. You'll get all of our content sent directly to you. You can listen to it on your computer. YouTube is a great help for us. So hit that up. And if you're listening to this on YouTube right now, write a comment in. It helps our algorithm out. It helps people find us. And I would love it if you did that. All right. Our second discussion today has to do with college basketball. Now, this is going to, the topic I'm going to talk about right now impacts all sports, but we're on our show, we talk a lot about the revenue sports, and that's basketball and football, right? You know, hockey makes a little money here and there too, but there is talk, and it sounds like it's passed, that the NCAA is considering expanding postseason tournaments by 25%. So what does that mean? We're talking college basketball here. That could mean that college basketball's March Madness is going to go up from like 64 to 90. 90 teams. Is that a good thing? I mean, as I just said with bowl eligibility, I'm not in for like participation fees here, folks, but give me more content. I love content. You know, the more teams that get to play, and you know, knowing the kids that get involved. Fan, yeah, you may want it to be more of a reward for the teams that get in, but for the kids, for me as a observer, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it may water things down just a little bit more when you have, like, you know, the 12th ranked SEC team playing like the 10th ranked Big Ten team. But how does this is Locked On BC? How does this impact Boston College? And unlike bowl eligibility, which might get a little tough, college basketball, if they go to 90 teams, this could absolutely be a good thing for Boston College. And here's why. When you have a team like BC, who is not a blue blood and will never be a blue blood, as much as BC to be a team that gets 5-star recruits, it has, unless something drastic changes at the presidency, I don't see it ever happening at BC. They're going to have to be a team that has lightning in a bottle or is on the edge all the time. And, you know, for the most part, over the last 15 years, BC has been completely irrelevant. I don't have to tell you that. Between Steve Donahue, Jim Christian, and even the first 2 years of Earl Grant, BC has not looked like a tournament team. But look at this year. Look at BC right now. The start of the year, BC was ranked 72nd on KenPom. That would have put them on the outside of the tournament as it is currently constructed. Now, if BC finished the year at that same number, they would get in, most likely. Is that bad for BC? That is a very good thing. BC is always going to be a team, to me, that is on the bubble. The team that fight and scratch their way in. So if the expands to 90 teams, that's going to help BC get into more tournaments. I think that's a good thing. Change stinks. I'm going to say that right off the bat. And I know folks don't want things to bloat too much, but you know, the NIT is a waste of time. What are all those other tournaments? Who cares? Why not just throw them in and make it tougher for them? I don't know how you change up the tournament brackets, but you know, those teams, just if that's the case, throw them in there. Make them all playing games. It would be much more interesting than having the NIT on whatever channel no one can ever find. In the end, it's all about money. That's what these decisions are made on. It's not the welfare of students. It's not our interest. It's all about money. And getting more tournament games is obviously going to get them more money. So that's what they're going to do. So for basketball, I think it's a good thing. And for women's basketball too, right? just look at last year. BC was the last team out, I believe, for women's basketball. They were the number 1 seed in the NIT. The NIT for women's, I still don't find it on television. That's a complete waste of time. If that means for women's, it gets them on TV, I don't know how that can't be a bad thing. It's going to be a good thing for them too. So I like this idea. I think if you get more BC teams into tournaments, it's always just a good thing. I just hope when I look at all this that it doesn't, if BC is like the 88th or 89th team in, that the administration in Chestnut Hills are going to look at that and go, oh man, that's exactly what we're looking for. We're a championship caliber team, when in actuality you're like, well, no, in actuality you're like the 40th rank, you're in the 40th percentile in college basketball. That's not a good thing. That's not you being a championship team. So I could see a bit of a mixed bag. For other teams, you'll see baseball. Baseball's got a long way to go. And I don't know how it's going to impact things like hockey and lacrosse. That's not my cup of tea, but I wanted to look at this in terms of the business side of things, because I think it's a big deal. And I want to also, as we kind of wrap up this conversation, thank Dennis Monahan, who's a regular listener to the show and questions. And he sends me, I wish he would post here, because he had, and I would share them with you, but he always sends me DMs with like thoughts about the show, and one was business. And it's ironic that this came up at the same time his message to me came up about business and college basketball and football, because this was a big one. And I think that's kind of how we're going to wrap that conversation up. Now, to end our show, we have some news and notes going around Boston College sports. We'll get into that. And any other thoughts? If you have a comment that you'd like us to address, hit up our comment section right now. And love to hear what you have to say. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that as well. Now, are you looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fats and calories? Then you gotta try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me, when you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've just got the thing for you. You gotta try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious you think they're good for you. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they've come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like candy bars while maintaining amazing even better is that they're healthy. 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar. So if you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later and use promo code LOCKEDON 15% off. Again, head over to built.com and use promo code LOCKEDON to save 15%. This is Locked On BC. AJ Black. Now, one quick note before we get into wrapping up our show. We had said earlier this week, Mitch had a special guest coming on our show, but unfortunately plans fell through. We didn't want to oversell that, but things fell through. Hopefully we'll be getting Victor Nelson on at another time, but we just can't get him on right now. So unfortunately we have to apologize on that. Now, on yesterday's show, I talked about Quinton Post, and I talked about how important he is to Boston College basketball. And I made the joke, and I saw one of the sickos caught on to it, my BQP and AQP, so before Quinton Post and after Quinton Post, because I'm starting to think more and more that the more he plays, the better this team is going to be. And they're going to play a Duke team on Saturday that currently, when I was looking at, was losing to NC State. They're down by 25 right now to NC State. They're losing 71-46. They're going to play Duke at home at Boston College, and I believe the students are on campus for this game. This is, BC's already kind of talking about how hard it is to get into the game, so I'm assuming it's going to be a sellout. This could be a magnetic game for Boston College. And unfortunately, if Duke loses to NC State, they could also be knocked out of the rankings, which would stink because you love to beat a ranked Duke. But I'm starting to buy the BC has a chance on Saturday. Are you? Are you starting to feel this? Because I am. I'm starting to think that BC might actually find their groove and get that big win. Duke is super talented, but they're not the same Duke team that we've seen in years past. They've hit some. I mean, they're losing by 25 as I record this to NC. I'm thinking BC might have a chance here. I'm really looking for this game, and I got to go with the big guy. I got to go with this team was missing such a key ingredient to their team without Quentin Post. And now that they've got him back, I think that they're going to start to really play at a different level. Their offense clearly will never shoot the three-pointer as well. I don't think Post is going to help that at all. But the aggressiveness, the way to get to the hoop, things that have been important to Earl Grant's teams, changes so much more drastically with Post out there. I think they're going to win some games. And I'm looking at that Duke game, and I'm thinking I'm going crazy here. I'm thinking that they might have a chance to win. Do you? Hit me up in the comments. Am I crazy? Am I thinking BC has a chance here? So that's my thoughts on in terms of football. Also, I think that when you're looking at this weekend, it's another big recruiting weekend. So I can't get into details, but I can tell you that there's going to be visitors and it's transfers. So you might want to give a listen to that. I head over to Eagle Insider this weekend. If news breaks, we will have all the coverage that you want about all the players that could end up transferring to Boston College. I think there might be some names that might be exciting for you, so you might want to check that out. Well, this is AJ Black. We're going to wrap up our show today. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with some news, notes, and everything in between on our show. Hit us up on Twitter at AJBlack_BC or at LockedOnBC as well. Thank you all so much for listening. I do this, we're in a new year right now, and I want to thank each and every one of you that have made Locked On BC your daily listen, because I do this out of love for Boston College. And just like you, the fans that listen to this and follow along with BC, it's not easy. Some of these games that you watch, I have to watch the same thing too. And I get in here and I do this 5 days a week for a love of doing this, but also because I like to communicate with all of you, because Boston College doesn't have the infrastructure and media presence that other programs do, and they deserve it. And I want to be that guy for you. I have obviously a graduate. I've done this for years. I worked at BC, a season ticket holder before I was a media member, and I bleed maroon and gold. I will admit it, right? So at the end of the day, I hope you enjoy our show. I hope you like listening to Locked On BC because it's for you. So thank you all. And if you want us to recommend us to a friend or another BC fan, that would be a huge help for us too. And we'll be back again tomorrow for another show. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.